Can you switch it to the other screen now? You got to pay attention to that stuff.
I didn't hear you.
Where I was about to stop it and start over again because we had some technical difficulty. Shalom to everybody. All praise to Yahweh B'Shem Mashiach Yahweh Shai. We're gonna go into today we're gonna it's about time. It's all about time when we go into the scriptures and show you the biblical concepts of time, according to the history in the Hebrew and according to wisdom. All right. So we want to start off, just like we do, with every installment. Shalom Yasha Allah. I will buy you Gadah. So just like we do with every, we want to start off in Genesis, explaining to you that from the onset of our introduction to time, immediately from the first word we see, Yahweh shows us what? He shows us contrast. All right, up and down. All right, and if we have a little basket, all right, we have this in the basket, and then we have outside the basket. This is what we see from the very, very beginning, which oddly enough is the first word that we have in Genesis. All right. So we're going to the first word of Genesis, like I like to begin this way. We have Ba Ra'ash. Bara'ash, yeah. Okay. Ra'ash, of course, means head, and then the yath is a suffix, which gives it a feminine. And the ba, of course, means what? Means in. In the head. So that's you can go ahead and stand over there by the mic to pick you up. Get the red apocrypha if you got it over there. Bara Ashath, that's how we start out. Okay. Ovigada, okay. Albayagada, okay, so that's not the right way. Ovigada, okay, hallelujah. All right, so in the head. Now immediately we say, okay. Now, what's anybody on the call or anybody in the room with me now? What's the opposite of your head? Okay, the opposite is your foot. You see, so from the beginning, the Most High gives us opposites. What's the opposite of in, everybody or anybody? Out. The opposite of in is out. So in the head or in the beginning, as opposed to out of the foot. So everything is over now. All right. So we see this from the very beginning that the Most High is a power of opposites, that he shows us the concepts of opposites from Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. So we have in the beginning as opposed to outside of the end. So we in the beginning. All right, in the beginning. And also when you go into in the beginning, that's a definite starting point. But outside of the end has two interpretations, right? If I say you have to look outside of the end of the movie, what am I telling you? What two things am I telling you? To one, look where? Well, to look, just give me the movie. If I say you got to look outside the end of the movie, what am I telling you? To look at the beginning of the movie, or to look someplace in the middle of the movie before the end of the movie. So that's how we have kind of two different concepts dealing with time. All right. So we have the beginning, the middle, and the end. Let's go into the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7. And let's start with verse 13. All right, let's start with verse 13. Go ahead.
I learned diligently.
So Solomon said he learned diligently, meaning he was pointing out several aspects of wisdom. He says he learned diligently. Go ahead.
And do communicate her liberally.
Meaning Solomon was very, very charitable with his wisdom. He communicated wisdom very liberally, meaning he just shared her with everybody. That's why the scripture says, if any man lack wisdom, let him ask of Yahweh, was given to all men liberally. So Solomon gave wisdom to everybody he came across. All right, go ahead.
I did not hide her riches.
So Solomon doesn't hide the riches of wisdom. So in all of our thoughts, in all of our actions, wisdom is there. When Solomon goes throughout his day, wisdom was there. When Solomon was in the bathroom, when he was eating dinner, wisdom was right there. So wisdom is always present. Read that part again.
I learned diligently and do communicate her liberally. I do not hide her riches.
So wisdom was not hidden, all right, from La'ah. Wisdom was not hidden. Solomon did not hide the wisdom he was dealing with. So when we're dealing with Genesis and when we're dealing with it's about time, the whole concept that I'm trying to show you through the spirit of Yahweh, Yahushai, and the spirit of Chakmah mainly, is the fact that Chakmah answers all of our questions about time. Not Ezekiel, not Isaiah, not Enoch, not the Psalms, but Chakmah answers all of our questions about time. Chakmah is the supreme master teacher. We're going to read in the scriptures. And it's important that you know this so that you won't keep trying to dig through precepts, as you call it, trying to dig through scripture breakdowns, but that you learn a few basic principles about wisdom. Just a few, like I said, you go up and down, left and right. The Most High showed you contrast. You got up, down, you have left, you have left, which is the evil side usually, and you have the right, which is the right side. All right? Dealing with righteousness. And then up, which is the righteous side, and down, which is the negative side. So we still see pros and cons, darkness and light. And we see this from Genesis chapter 1, verse 2 and 3, darkness and light. So he said he communicates her liberally. Read.
I do not hide her riches. For she is a measure unto men that never faileth.
She is a what?
A treasure unto men that never faileth.
So wisdom is that treasure that never fails. So the scripture says, store your treasures in heaven where moss and rust does not corrupt. When Yahweh said the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that a man found and things like that, he's talking about wisdom. So wisdom is a treasure. This is the question you got to ask yourself. We don't just talk about wisdom in this community, in this household, in this nation. We don't just talk about wisdom, yo. We actually use wisdom. Because how do you gain access to the treasures of wisdom when it comes to time and any other topic? So wisdom is a treasure. Wisdom is a treasure. And wisdom might be a treasure. All right. She might be a treasure. All right. And then you might have that treasure set up. And on that treasure, you might have a what? What's that on the treasure? You might got a lock on that treasure. See that? You might have a treasure chest, but then you got a lock on that treasure. You got a lock on the treasure. So how do you unlock the treasure of wisdom? It can be reading the Bible, because everybody does that. It can't be keeping the Torah, because everybody does that. Supposedly, all Israelites are supposed to keep the Torah. All Israelites are supposed to be walking in obedience. So the treasure that wisdom allows us to access, wisdom is that treasure. And we use that treasure to go make a what? To make a heavenly purchase. Because wisdom grants us favor to Yahweh. So if you want to understand about time, brothers and sisters, you can't just read the scriptures and say, this is the breakdown over here. You got to go and get that understanding through wisdom. And Solomon is going to tell us that. You see, when you read the scriptures, there's a carnal understanding of what it says in the beginning. That's what it says in the beginning. God created heaven and earth. That's what it says. Now, when we go to in the beginning, we see that wisdom or chakma is the beginning. All right, wisdom is the Most High said he possessed her in the beginning, which is Ba Ra'ashiath. He possessed her in the beginning of his way, Ba Ra'ashiath. So if he possessed wisdom in the beginning of his way, which is Ba Ra'ashiath, he possessed wisdom. Now, when we go into the beginning, the actual beginning, what? We're still dealing with wisdom, which is that treasure. So let's go to wisdom being a treasure. Read that again.
For she is a treasure unto men that never faileth.
So chakma is that treasure that never fails. So this is why your precepts sometimes, your breakdowns sometimes. This is why your prayers sometimes are not answered, are incorrect, don't flow with the rest of the Bible, because you're not doing it through wisdom. That's the thing. See, we all know we're Yasher Allah, but all of us ain't gonna have wisdom. We all know we're the children of the Most High, but wisdom is a certain level that all men do not attain to. Only a few men can attain to the higher levels of wisdom. I want you to hold what you got and pick up, find the Torah or something, and go into Deuteronomy chapter. Going to Deuteronomy chapter 4. I want you to read about verse 10. Actually, let's Deuteronomy chapter 4, and let's read verse 6. Now we're reading from the Kumah, so the wording might be a little different. You got it? All right, read Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 6. Read.
Observe therefore and do them.
So the Most High says, observe and do his commandments. Read.
What?
Come on, man. You got to wake up, bro. You sleepy? You need some coffee? Coffee beans or coffee candy or some toffee? Need a cup of sugar? A sugar cane to chew on? All right, go ahead and read.
For this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the peoples.
So the Most High say that the law of Yahweh is our wisdom and our understanding in the sight of the other people. All right, go ahead.
That when they hear all these statutes.
So when the Gentiles hear the laws, the statutes, and the commandments that we're teaching, what happens?
Shall say.
This is what the Gentiles are going to say. Read.
Surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.
So the whole nation is on a level of wisdom before the other nations. That's the first level of wisdom, is the law of the Most High. And that's the level that people usually stop at when they find out that, you know, we are the Israelites or we are the children of the Most High. They usually stop at that first level of wisdom. Go ahead.
For what great nation is there that hath Elohim so nigh unto them?
All right, go ahead.
As Yahweh our Elohim is whensoever we call upon him.
Okay, go ahead.
And what great nation is there that hath statutes and ordinances so righteous as all this law, which I set before you this day?
So we see that wisdom is that first level that we attain her in obeying the Torah. So if you still making excuses for the commandments, if you still going to restaurants where they're serving pork and shrimp and lobster and crab, if you still not wearing your fringes and border blue on your clothes, if you still hating your brother and your sister, you know, in your heart, then you don't have that first level of wisdom, because all those things are against the commandments and laws of the Most High. So that's the first level of wisdom, is just to obey the commandments. And everybody's supposed to be on that level of wisdom. All right. Now, there's another level of wisdom, all right, which is gonna, let's go into, you're gonna need a Bible. Let's go into, gonna need a Bible. All right, let's go into, to show one of the next levels of wisdom, man. Let's go on to 1 Corinthians chapter 1. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 30. That's King James? Don't worry, go ahead. I'll correct it. 1 Kings chapter 1, verse 30. That's the first level of wisdom that everybody has to deal with, which is the fact that we got to keep those commandments. Now, there's another level of wisdom which we're going to show also. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 30. Read that.
It is because of him,
because of Yahushua HaMashiach, read,
that you are in Hamashiach
Yahushua,
who has become for us wisdom.
So Yahushua became wisdom for us, read,
from Elohim,
that
is our righteousness, holiness, and redemption.
So our wisdom, righteousness, sanctification, and redemption. So we learn these things from the life of Yahushua. We learn about wisdom. We learn about righteousness. We learn about sanctification. And we also get our redemption in the person of Yahushua HaMashiach. So that's another level of wisdom. So we're looking to be like Yahushua HaMashiach to walk in wisdom. Now, why am I going into wisdom so much? Because you will not understand the treasures of wisdom. You will not understand what I'm teaching you about time if you don't look at the levels of wisdom. You got to put all those other thoughts out of your brain, and you got to listen to the words that's coming out this book, because when you go into wisdom, you're being born again. When you go into wisdom, you're starting all over again. You got to come to her as a child. You can't come like, I know everything. I'm the big shot. All right. I know everything, so I'm the big shot. All right. So now let's go into the level of wisdom that we're trying to deal with now. Go back into the let's go back into the Apocrypha. All right, just set it upright right there. Let's go back into the Apocrypha. The water bun. All right, let's go into the Apocrypha, and let's go into Ecclesiasticus chapter 38. Ecclesiasticus chapter 38. All right.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom, hallelujah. All right, so the other level of wisdom that we're going to go into, we're dealing with time. Now remember, I'm going around in a circle, but I also got to take you to show you about time through the perspective of wisdom. Because when I teach you about biblical time, it can only be taught from the treasures of wisdom. This is what Solomon begins to tell us in, what was that, Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7, right? Okay, so now let's go to Ecclesiasticus, and let's go into chapter let's go into chapter 38. You're in 38, right? And let's go into 24. Read.
The wisdom of a learned man.
So the wisdom of a man of what?
The wisdom of a learned man.
The wisdom of a learned man. What's the first level of learning okay, what's the first level of learning that every child is supposed to be introduced to? Torah. That's the only thing the Most High ever commanded us to teach our children. That meaning that that's not the only thing, but that's the basic, that's elementary school. That's preschool. It's the Torah. The Torah. All right. If you don't believe me, you can go back into the Shema. Because everybody says, Hear, O Israel, Yahweh our power, Yahweh is one. And you shall love Yahweh with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Right? So bam, that's where it starts at. But then when we go into wisdom, it says all your heart, all your soul, and all your might. And then the next thing we're told outside of ourselves is that we have to teach these words diligently unto our children. All right. unto our children. So that's the next level of wisdom we have to go into. All right. So we have to, that's the first level of education is the Torah. Now read that part again.
The wisdom of a learned man comes by opportunity of leisure.
So here we see that not only when we deal with the law are we dealing with wisdom, but there's another level of wisdom inside the law. That wisdom reveals to you once you have what? The opportunity of comes by what?
Of leisure.
Of leisure. When you're not pressed for time. When your money is working for you, or you reduce your cost of living by so much that you don't have to do a whole lot. You can just relax. You might have a small little house. You might have a small little garden, and you might have a low overhead to live. And now you can focus more on teaching and on studying, on fasting and praying, because you don't got to pay somebody all your money that you have coming in just to survive. So that's the level of wisdom where we are now. Read.
And he that has little business.
He that has what?
Little business.
But he that has little business. That doesn't mean he that doesn't have capital coming in. That means that he that is not occupied in the business of living, of work, of surviving, but has made it so that his money can work for him, or made it so that he does not need a lot of money to live. So he that has little business, what?
Shall become wise.
Shall become what?
Wise.
Shall become wise. So if you're dealing with trying to, manage 30 men, these brothers have made sacrifices, man. These brothers have actually sacrificed wisdom when they're trying to micromanage 30 and 40 and 20 men. It's impossible, the scriptures are saying to us. The scripture says, read that part again.
The wisdom of a learned man.
No, about the business.
And he that hath little business shall become wise.
So he that has little business becomes wise. So your time has to be managed also according to wisdom. That's why Yahweh told Moses. What did he tell Moses? Through the spirit of through the spirit of Jethro, right? He told Moses, I want you to have a captain of 1,000. Then I want you to have a captain of 100. Then I want you to have a captain of 50. And then a captain of 10. That's the different levels of the administrative hierarchy in Israel. And on top of that, what do you have now? Moses introduced the 70 elders. And then above the 70 elders was Moses. And then above everybody was Yahweh. Yahweh was above everybody. All right, keep going.
How can he get wisdom that holdeth the plow?
So what did the Most High say? I want you to read that again. I want you to read that very loudly.
How can he get wisdom that holdeth the plow? And he that
How can you get wisdom if you're holding the plow? If you're involved in heavy labor, if you're involved in always having to get up early and stay up late to do work, physical work. There's nothing wrong with physical work, but when you're working that plow, boy, it drains your body down. It drains your body. The Most High said, how can you get wisdom if you always doing an activity that's draining your body down? See, you can't get wisdom if you always out there doing something else. You got to sit still and learn about all the concepts. Read.
And that glorieth in the gold.
That glorieth in the gold. The gold is talking about the staff that the animals use. You use them for your animals, like the shepherd staff. All right, go ahead.
That driveth oxen.
That deal with ox. Go ahead.
And it's occupied in their labors.
Okay.
And he talketh of bullocks.
So you can't get wisdom if you constantly trying to do other types of physical work. You and your family, your wife or your children or your brother, your cousin, figure out a way so that something is coming in. But you personally that's trying to seek wisdom don't got to be constantly trying to rub two nickels together and trying to scrape to get money. But you got a mind to where that money can still come in and be used and multiplied, but not necessarily by you working 16 hours a day. Now let's go back to Wisdom of Solomon, and I'm going to show you how it all ties back together, how it all links back up to time, how it all links up to time. You can let go of Ecclesiasticus. All right, so we back in Wisdom of Solomon. Y'all remember, we talking about time. And now we're going to show you how it's impossible for you to understand time without wisdom. And you've been looking for the wrong places. You've been looking for nub in all the wrong places. All right? Looking for nub in all the wrong places. All right, so let's go into Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7. And let's read, what verse you in now? Let's read verse 14.
For she is a treasure unto men that never faileth.
So wisdom is a treasure that never fails. That means that when you have wisdom and you understand her jewels, whatever you're trying to purchase will always be available for you. That's what that means. So the question is, wisdom is not just you giving fancy sayings or sayings that smell that sound intelligent and wise. That's not wisdom. Wisdom is you actually doing. You see that? Wisdom is doing the things that the Most High said to do. And then you will understand time a lot better when you actually do wisdom. When you actually are humble. When you actually do walk in the fruits of the Spirit. When you actually do give a soft answer. When you actually do plan ahead when you see that something bad or evil is at the head of the road. Read.
Which they that use become friends of Elohim.
They that use wisdom will become the friends of Yahweh. Read.
Being commended for the gifts that come from learning.
So those men that are walking in wisdom become Yahweh's friends. And Yahweh and man will commend you for what you're talking about pertaining to wisdom. You see, and this is the thing. You can go into any breakdown, any video, anything online. But you're rarely going to see something that shows you how to access the treasures of wisdom. Because anybody knows that when I talk about the word treasure, what's the first thing comes to your mind when I talk about treasure? What comes to your mind? Gold. What else? Money. And now you thinking about, oh, I got a bunch of gold, I got a bunch of money. Now what are you thinking about? Now you can buy stuff. See that? Now you're thinking about buying things. So what do you want? You want long life, all right? You want good health. Those are the main things people want. You rather be sick and about to die tomorrow, or you rather be in perfect health and live a long life? Would you rather be poor and in perfect health and alive, or you rather have all the money in the world for the next 2 months? You see? So that long life and that health is something that you can never compare. And the Most High tells you that long life and health is in the hands of wisdom, and she possesses both of those things. So this, to give us an understanding about time today, is nothing to wisdom. That's a small thing to wisdom. Continue reading. What verse you in?
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 15. Elohim hath granted me to speak as I would.
So now Yahweh gave Solomon the permission to speak. See, a lot of you brothers out there talking, and you out there on the streets talking and stuff, but the truth of the matter is that Yahweh have not granted you no license to speak, because you're not really walking in obedience to his word. You got to get a license from the Most High to be out there to talk and teach the word, man. You can't just wake up and, oh, I'm going to teach the word now, because your spirit might not be really locked into it. And that will make you a hypocrite. And there's no way a lot of you brothers are you know, a lot of you brothers out there teaching, and everybody out there teaching on the street is walking in Torah. How can you be on the streets teaching if you ain't walking in Torah? How can you be on the street teaching if you're not being fully obedient to your covenant? I'm not saying perfect, but you don't have no list of sins that you will do when an opportunity arises to do it. That's the difference between being perfect and being sinful. Sinful is that sin has dominion over you. So I know every Christmas I'm going to this Christmas party. I know that, you see, and that's the thing that we got to look at. You can't be doing a certain sin every time the opportunity arises for you to do it. That's the difference. All right. So the Most High has to grant you the ability to speak. Everybody pick up the Bible and read Book of Enoch, Book of Jubilee, the Holy Bible, all right, the Gospel of the Holy 12. Everybody that picks up the Bible is not meant to teach this word, man. Solomon himself said that the Most High granted him what?
Granted me to speak as I would,
Go ahead.
and to conceive as is meet for the things that are given me.
So Most High granted him to speak as he would and to conceive, all right, as it is the right thing to do for the things that were given to him. So Solomon was given understanding, and Solomon conceived and brought forth that understanding that the Most High gave to him, and he could prove all things through wisdom. All right, keep going.
Because it is he that leadeth unto wisdom.
It is what?
It is he that leadeth unto wisdom.
It is me.
It is he that leadeth unto wisdom.
It is you.
It is he that leadeth unto wisdom.
So the Most High got to lead you to wisdom. And some of you in your spirits, I know you're like, man, I need wisdom. I really want wisdom. When you hear wisdom, it's like, bam, okay. All right. When you hear wisdom, you're like, okay, man, I got to get that. You see, so the Most High is leading you to wisdom. It's the Most High that leads men to wisdom. Not just you reading inside the book and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this. And a lot of y'all don't even pick up the scriptures and do what the wisdom says to do, but that's what you got to do. A lot of y'all got to do that. I got to do it more. You got to do it more. That's how you're going to grow into wisdom. Read.
And directeth the wise. For in his hand are both we and our words.
Now I know y'all talking about, what about the time? Parmesan, man, you're going all around the bush. Now we're going to get to the time part. So the Most High has us and our word in his hand. Go ahead.
All wisdom also.
All wisdom also. Go ahead.
And knowledge.
All wisdom is in the hand of the Most High. All knowledge is in the hands of the Most High. Now we're going to get into something else. All wisdom, all knowledge, and all what?
And knowledge of workmanship.
All knowledge of workmanship, meaning how to do things, how to work things out. You want to be an astronomer? Wisdom, the Most High got that power in his hand. You want wisdom? The Most High has wisdom in his hand. Read.
For he hath given me certain knowledge.
So the Most High gave Solomon certain knowledge. And the Most High has given, by the grace of Yahweh, has given to me certain knowledge. Go ahead.
Of things that are namely to know how the world was made.
No, read that again. He has given me certain knowledge.
Has given me certain knowledge of things that are namely to know.
Of things that are. Namely to what?
To know how the world was made.
Know how the world was made. So now this when we go back into the Bible with time. How was the world made? When we go into Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, when it says, Bara Ashab Bara Alahayim Atharatazah, Athashemayim Atharatazah. Bereshit Bara Elohim et Hashemayim ve'et ha'eretz. So in the beginning, Alahayim created. Alahayim created. What does that mean? That means that every single thing that was meant to exist and meant to use in creation was made in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. So all of the elements and the molecules that we know about from the periodic table of elements and the ones that we don't know about. I'm talking about the quasars and the quarks and all of that. All those things we don't know about and the ones we do know about were made in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. And everything after that was those elements coming together to make air, to make the flowers, all right, to make light, to make the animals, to make the dirt, to make the water, to make the firmament, to make the sun, to make the stars, to make the clouds. So when we see this, how the world was made, basically Solomon had a thorough understanding of what?
Of how the world was made.
Of what you might call elements. Elements of what? Elements of creation. The whole book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1, is about space. Because the Most High is creating things that's going to occupy everywhere. The universe is something everywhere in the universe. So the Most High, elements of creation, okay, we're gonna call that one, which would include anything in space, and then we'll say B, anything in time. In time. So this is what we see going on in Genesis chapter 1. So when the Most High tells Solomon the knowledge of certain things, specifically how the world was made, that's going to the troposphere, all right, the ionosphere, the ozone layer, all right, all these different layers between us and the coldness of space. Solomon understood and knew about. He understood and knew about it perfectly. So this is what we have to understand. That is the meaning of this verse. So wisdom reveals, not only does wisdom reveal things to Solomon, wisdom reveals things to you and things to me about what in the world Solomon is talking about. So now wisdom can show us that one of the deepest secrets of wisdom from Genesis chapter 1, verse 3. All right, Genesis chapter 1, verse 3. Remember, we're dealing with time, but you cannot talk about time without dealing with space. All right. So when we go into Genesis chapter 1, verse 3, all right, Elohim said, "Let there be light." Yahya award. All right. So that light took place in the time and in space everywhere. All right. So now we see that the elements of creation now is manifested to give us light. But before that light, what are you saying? Huh? Why what? Before all that light was created, it was created first. Before the light, what was created? Darkness. And we see that from Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. When the Most High said that I form the light and create the darkness. He does the good and evil. He does all things. He forms all things, right? So we see that now we have the elements of creation, which is space and time. But if you want to switch this around now, and before that, you will put darkness. So it's darkness, space, and time. You know, now you can get very technical about these things because the first word we see is the word in. So in is relative to out. So now we see that inside of something, the existence of space and time, wisdom was there in the beginning, Ba with Asha, and it's actually going on in the spirit, in the head, the top of wisdom itself. Right, keep going.
And the operation of the elements.
And the what?
The operation of the elements.
The operation of all of the elements. Once again, the periodic table of elements, the things that we know about, as well as those elements that exist beyond our comprehension, like air. Okay, like air and water and fire and earth, plasma, electricity, spirit. All right, spirit meaning different forms of energy. Solomon understood all of these things, man. So you can't just go into Genesis, okay, we're going to read this, and people look at the Bible just as a book just to prove their breakdowns. And no, son. It's a much deeper and much more important book than that. It is a book to instruct you on how to live your life, on how to make it into the kingdom of the Most High, on how to answer questions about everything that people have questions about. Specifically, the higher levels of wisdom shows you the lower levels, and it's easier to understand the lower levels. I read that part again, that last part.
And the operation of the elements. The
operation of the elements. What are the main two? Let's see. When we go into Genesis, we have in the beginning. So now in the beginning, now we have space. we have space, because space in is relative to space. The beginning is relative to time. So we have time and space from the beginning. And then we have, in the beginning, God created, Elohim created. So now we have all of the elements filling in that space and time. Okay, so we have time, space, and then we have elements. This is all from Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, in space, the beginning is time, and created is the elements. You see that? Now, wisdom, I didn't do this. I didn't say, oh, you know what, let me think this up. I'm a master this thing. Let me get over here and see what Newton has to say. Let me see what Francis Bacon said about this. Let me see what let me see what Tesla has to say about it, right? I didn't do that. Wisdom showed this to me. I didn't do this in my own brain. Wisdom put those thoughts in my spirit. And when I look at the scripture, I say, well, that's right. Why? Because that's what we see in the scriptures. In is space. The beginning is time. Elohim created. That's dealing with the elements. Created what? Created the heavens. Once again, these are relative terms. Created the heavens and the earth. Now we have a positioning. The heavens is positioning and our perspectives of position. All right. So we have positioning. Specifically dealing with location. Location of the amassing together of what? Of the elements. So some of the elements, the Most High created to do what? For the heavens. And some of the elements the Most High put together for what? For the earth. So everything we're reading about is from the perspective of our little home planet right here. So heaven and earth are all happening dealing with time, space, and the elements. And then it gets more specific about the positioning. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Okay, so now, I hope you got this written down. All right, so position, you got location, and you got heaven and earth. You got that written down? All right, so position, you got heaven and earth. So then it says the spirit of Elohim moved upon what? Moved upon, I'm going to erase this now. Spirit of Elohim moved upon the face, it moved upon the waters of the deep. All right, and then the darkness. Okay, now the darkness then is the light. Now, this right here basically is giving us our first measurement of time in the whole in the Bible. Our first measurable cycle of time in the Bible, because we know that the darkness he called Layla. And we know that the light he called Yawam, which means night and day. Right? But this is once again, this is the Shakar. All right. And this over here is the award. All right. Let me have the Hebrew book right there. All right, so now, and there's a point that we get into, which is really why we're going into this. And I know it seems like it's taking a lot of time, but it must need to be done this way. Okay. It must be done this way. Okay. Take this. All right. The other one means Shakard is like a different form of it's a different form of darkness that deals with more like a brown or a black type of darkness, as opposed to this Kashak is like a pure darkness. All right, it's a pure darkness. Okay, so we have these things taking place. So now we see when the Most High said what? When the Most High Yahweh said, "Let there be light," he said, Yahya Lord. So then he said that the evening and the morning were the first day. Now we're going through this for a reason, and Solomon is going to show us what it's talking about. So let's erase this. So we have the listen what we got, okay? And you have to really understand this, and you have to go back to what we did last week and get the understanding of this. We're not going to go into it this week, but then the Most High said that the evening and the morning were day one, and then the Most High says that the evening and the morning were day two. But all of these doctrines people have about the evening and the morning being day 1 and 2 is because people don't understand, all right? They don't understand what's happening between the evening and the morning. So what they do is kind of just create new doctrine. But there's things that happen between the evening and the morning that we went into last week that shows you how the day definitely starts with the night. Right? I think we went into in the second one before the summit also, right? We talked about Zalal, right? Zalal in the shop, right? So look those words up, all right? Zalal. You know, these are the phases that take place along with evening and morning. We have 3 different phases going from lightness into the dark and going from the darkness into the lightness also, and it's a repeated cycle. So these are the words to look. I'm gonna write them in the modern Hebrew, so you can get your little Bible, or get your little Strong's Concordance out and look at it. Zalal is the first one. All right, that's the first one. Go back, rewind if you didn't get that. The next one is going to be all right. Nashap. Actually, you know what? I'll put it back up there for y'all. Zalal. That's number 1. Look up that one. And then 2, Nashap. That's the second one. And then number 3, look up this one, which is going to be Alata or Ilta. Look up that one. Look up these look up these words in your dictionaries or in your Strongs, right? Or type them into your keyboard on your phone, and then cut it and then put it into Google and put dictionary or meaning or translation, or just go into your, if you have a Genesius, or if you have a Young's Concordance, or if you have a Strong's Concordance, use your Strong's as a dictionary. Don't just use it as looking up the English in the verses, but use it to actually explore the Hebrew language. Now, I'm not an expert in Hebrew. I just know enough of the Hebrew as it pertains to the different topics that, that I'm teaching on. All right, that I'm teaching on. All right, so look up these three words and we'll see how the evening and the morning, that people don't understand the concepts of those times because they don't understand all of the phases that go along with the darkness and the light. They just see evening and morning and they go off of that and they go off the word day, which once again, you got to keep going back. And that's why you have to really follow these classes, because I'm reviewing a lot of stuff because there's people here that I know haven't reviewed these things yet. So when we go into the word day, we got two kinds of day. Day of the light award, which is Yom or Yawam, and then we have the day, which is the evening and the morning working together in one cycle. All right. So now let's go back to Solomon, and this is the meat of what we're teaching today. The meat of it's about time. Read.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 18. The beginning.
Oh, so the beginning. Go ahead.
The ending and midst of the times.
The beginning, the end, and the midst. So the beginning, the end, and the midst. You see how he did that puzzle? We know midst goes right there. Right? The midst goes right there. But see how he gave it to us out of line. That you know that sometimes when Solomon is speaking, especially in his Proverbs, he's not talking in order. You got to extract what he's saying and put it in the order that you know it's supposed to be in it. And then you get more understanding with that. Right? So the Most High revealed to him the beginning, ending, and midst of the times. Okay, so like we said, all right, what is the beginning? Let's deal with the beginning right here. Which you know the beginning is what? Ra'ashat, right? The beginning is Ra'asha. So now the beginning, we're dealing with the beginning of a day, the beginning of the week, the beginning of the month, and the beginning of the year. In all different events, almost like a Solomon, in other words, was like Solomon, in other words, would make Nostradamus look like an unborn baby in his knowledge. Because Solomon knew all the things that's going to be happening during the days, the weeks, the months, and the years. He knew the beginning of these things, and he knew the midst of these things, and then he knows the what? He knew the end of these things, and he knew them through wisdom. We're going to show that. So when I'm teaching about a day or a week or a month, we know at the beginning of the day is darkness, right? And then if you want, and then technically, you got two middle of the days, right? What is the first middle of the day in that 24-hour cycle? Is going to be about 6 a.m. All right, which is when the sun is starting to come up. That's the first middle of the day. Now, the middle of the actual daylight is when you got the sun coming up, and then you got the sun going down. And in the middle of that, you got the sun what? High, bright in the sky. So Solomon understood these things. You see that? So that's the beginning, the middle, and then the end of the day is just like it started. Hey, calmate con esa pluma. The end of the day was the darkness. You see that? End of the day was the darkness. Now let's go into the week. The beginning of the week is the first day with the darkness, right? The middle of the week is the fourth day with the darkness. And the end of the day, the end of the week is the seventh day in the darkness. The day starts with the dark. That's why the Most High said he separated Wayabadal Bayan. Chashak wa bayan ha'awad. He separated between the darkness and the light. So the Most High put a separation between the darkness and the light. So that's how every day, every time has to be measured by darkness as the starting point. This is what we first learned in Genesis. So the day, darkness, the week, darkness, which is an accumulation of weeks. An accumulation of days is called a week. Now, the problem, the misunderstanding with people that try to say the Sabbath is according to the moon, the problem happens when we're dealing with the month. The month is on a whole different cycle. The month is going according to the moon. All right, so now the month itself, once again, as we see that the time count began with darkness. So once again, we have the darkness of the month when the sun and the moon are in a certain constellation. They line up, we have darkness, and that's when we begin. Same thing, now the middle of the month is going to be different. The middle of the month is going to be white and bright, just like we see with the day. Same thing, we see it with the day. The day doesn't start when there's a little bit of sun coming across the horizon. It's a kind of day, which is the daylight, but it's not the day of the 24-hour so-called cycle that we see from Genesis chapter 1 with the evening and the morning. It's a different kind of the day. So same thing with this month. We have the month starting in darkness. The middle of the month is bright. Is bright. And then the end of the month also is going to be that same darkness. That's why sometimes you have a day of darkness with undetectable light from the eye at the end of the month. When you have what they call a fractional illumination. You might have like 2/10 fractional illumination. All right. Or hundredths fractional illumination, 0.01 or 0.08 of how much light is actually emitting off of the sun to our naked eye. All right, we don't see no light. But if you have a very, very precise telescopic instrument, you'll see a little bit of light. See a little bit of light coming that you see on the left-hand side of the moon from the slight remainders of the waning crescent. The waning crescent. Then once that waning crescent is over, and all that, the blackness is fully covered now in front of the sun, and you got that 0.0000 illumination. Now that's when you have the month starting again. Now with the year, we're going to get into the year, but the year has to do with the year. You can study up on different stars that the Most High talks about. The Most High talks about Pleiades. He talked about Pleiades. I might got to spell it wrong. He talked about Arcturus. And then the Most High talks about Mazzaroth. All right, now the Pleiades are 7 groups of stars. 7 groups of, and the Most High also talks about Orion. But it doesn't use those words. We got the Hebrew words, but these are the words that you can look up. Okay, these are the words you can look up to understand. All right. So now, okay, dealing with these right here, all of these stars link up. They call Pleiades, they call these the planting stars. They call these the planting stars or the farming stars. Why? Because they start to get almost disappeared on the low horizon. I believe on the low of the horizon, I believe as the sun is coming up, you can hardly see them anymore. Throughout the rest of the year, they're fairly bright. But as the springtime comes around, meaning what? As the first as the moon and the sun start to move into that first constellation, which is so-called Aries, that's when the year is going to start. All right? That's when the year is going to start. We know that from the Most High, because he says Abib, which means ears of corn, which deals with planting and deals with harvesting. You start the year at this time period, because now you have a little harvest that you present before the Most High. From what? From that winter crop that went into the ground, and you got the early spring harvest. And you bring it to the Most High and to do the sheave offerings. See that? But you can't do that, all right, if you aren't able to go ahead and plant. All right. So now with this right here, we're dealing with the first constellation. We're dealing with the first constellation. And then the last constellation, we deal with the so-called two fishes. Right? So-called two fishes that people call Pisces. But these are just groups of stars the Most High put up there. He didn't put them up there to figure out who you should marry, what type of job you should get, what kind of day you're going to have, or for the horoscopes or any of those things. We're not supposed to use the stars for that. We only use the stars for location and positioning and for time. That's it. Like we see, from Genesis in the beginning. We're dealing with time. We're dealing with space. We're dealing with location. We're dealing with position. All right. That's what we use the constellations for. That's why they got the GPS. All right. The constellations are the universal GPS. You can always know where you are according to what stars you're looking at and what direction you're facing. That's the original GPS right there, the original global positioning system. Because if you know certain times of the year, if you want to go toward the east, you got to go toward a certain constellation. You want to go southeast, you got to go toward a certain positioning of the rising of the sun. All right. So these are the things that Solomon taught. See, we only in one verse of Solomon. And wisdom is what brings all of these things out. All right. Let's go to the next part of the verse. Where you at?
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 18.
Uh-huh.
The alterations of the turning of the sun.
The alteration of the turning. Now they put of the sun there. All right. But the alteration of the turning. Now look these things up, man, and study about these. All right. Now, when we studying about time, you just can't come up and say the day. I know one brother, man. The brother got a lot of pride on him, man. The brother always talk about any doctrine come out, he know it. But you ask him to explain it, he can't explain it. You ask him to go into the scriptures and show it, he can't go into the scriptures and show it. You prove that what he's saying is not in the scriptures and show him the opposite of what he's saying, the brother still won't humble himself. The brother said, no, light was created first. The Most High created the light first. Light was the first thing made. I said, well, brother, the Most High made the darkness first, then he created the light. No, he didn't. I was going to scripture. Went in Isaiah, and then went back into Genesis. Brother just tried to change the subject around or something. I'm like, man, you got to be humble. That's the spirit of Satan, man. Ain't the spirit of the Most High. The spirit of Satan exalts itself in pride and then don't want to humble itself and admit when it's wrong. That ain't the spirit of the Most High. That's the spirit of pride, man. All right, so now dealing with these the alteration and turning. Now they put of the sun there. But we can deal with the alteration and turning of what? Of the earth. Solomon understood how the earth turned. All right, of the earth. The alteration and turning of the sun. And the alteration and the turning of the moon. The alteration and turning of certain comets, and the alteration and turning of certain what? Certain meteoroid belts. So Solomon understood the alteration, all right, and the turning of all of these different things. And all these different things happen in a cycle. They happen in a cycle. And as these things happen in a cycle, wisdom lets you see these things. Wisdom lets me see these things so that, give me that book over there, blue one, the other one, the light blue. So that, you know, when I bring you something like this, all right, when I bring you the something like this, all right, the calendar, all right, when I bring you the dates for different events up to the year up to the year 2020, as I bring you these different things, it's after taking all these things into consideration. All right, I'm looking at the constellations. I'm looking at the stars. I'm looking at what's the earth going to be doing. And then we learn from these things, but we can't let these things be how we determine the previous thing that we just talked about, which was the beginning, the middle, and the ending of the year. There's certain things that got to be in place for the year to start. And it deals with the constellations. It doesn't deal with the earth. A lot of people say, oh, the earth and the sun are what we need to use to determine when we're going to start the year. That's what the book Enoch says. But the Most High tells us that it's going to be the moon and the Mazzaroth. All right, that show us when we're gonna start the year, man. And wisdom shows you that. So when you see somebody saying, "Oh, it's got to go by the what they call that, man, in the spring when the earth is perfectly supposed to be tilted up right now, 0 degrees." The spring what? Equinox. When you have equal parts of day and night. Because you might have a book that explains it so eloquently, but that's wrong. The Most High don't say nothing about beginning of year with no equinox. He specifically talks about the moon and then talks about the Mazzaroth in Genesis 1:14. He says the beginning of the year is going to be determined according to these constellations right here. Right? So the beginning, the middle, and the end of the times, all right? The times that we live in, as well as the times, you know, for your watch and for your days and your weeks and for your months and for your years. All that's got to be done through wisdom. All right. So he says the turning of the sun, or the turning, and what?
And the change of seasons.
Now the change of seasons. Now what the Most High tells us, right? The Most High tells us in the book of Genesis. He tells us in the book of Genesis, chapter 8, verse 22. He says, while the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest. Seed time and harvest. That means when it's time to put your seeds in the ground and when it's time to bring things up from the ground. Okay? Which is roughly about a 6-7 month period. All right. Then he says, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. So the two seasons the Most High primarily is dealing with is the seasons of hot and the season of heat, the season of cold, the season of summer, and the season of winter. Now, the season of winter is not just when snow is on the ground. The season of winter is after you did your harvest, and then you will go out and start to turn your dirt over. That's why the scripture says that the sluggard, the lazy man, will not plow his soil by reason of the cold. Because he said, oh, it's too cold for me to go out there and redo or turn my soil over. But nobody goes out there in the middle of winter trying to turn their soil over, but that winter began after the harvest, or after the harvest, and it started to get cold outside. So that's the cold. And then when it starts to heat up again, that's when we say, well, we're going into the summer, or we're going into the hot, or we're going into the seed time now. So that we're going into the seed time now. All right. And I've watched these different cycles, you know, as I was growing up. I used to go down to North Carolina, you know, I picked watermelons. All right. I picked strawberries when I was going to my family's visiting my family in North Carolina in the summer times, right? And then I also would pick tobacco. We'll put the tobacco inside the little house up there on the field, like almost like a little trailer almost, or like a house. You put the tobacco inside, it was dark inside there. You hang the tobacco over like a little stick. So you got different harvesting seasons depending on whatever crop that you're dealing with, man. So you have to watch and observe all these things according to wisdom, because it all relates back to time. The primary purpose of our time, why we need to understand it so thoroughly, is because it tells us when Yahweh wants us to worship him, when he wants us to worship him, when he wants to be glorified, when he wants us to keep this day as a holy day. So that was Genesis chapter 8, verse 22. So now let's go back into the wisdom of Solomon. All right. Now we talked about the change of seasons, right? So when do the seasons change, and how do they change according to the times? So we got to understand that too. And according to how a lot of you are just looking at this. They're looking at the spring equinox, looking at this when you got the same amount of time of day and night. Then looking at the summer solstice, when the days are long and the nights are short. All right. Then looking at the fall equinox, when you have the same amount of day and night again. And then looking at the winter, they're looking at the winter solstice, which is when you have a little bit of daylight and you have a long night. And then from there, everything starts to increase again. Everything starts to increase. So that's the cycle that people look at the seasons pertaining to the earth and the sun. But those seasons per se are still happening in the context of the constellations. They're not just happening outside of the constellations. So the constellations have to be the backdrop of all of the time that we're looking at. It's like the constellations are like a clock. All right, let me erase this. All right, so you got all this memorized now? Okay. So the constellations I'm going to show you are like a clock. All right? The constellations are like a clock. Okay? So you got a big old clock. All right? And in that clock, you have, let's say you have 12, 3, 6, and 9. All right? Now, if you go ahead and divide them up, all right, you want to divide them up. Let's say, bam, 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 bam. Some of my little circles ain't perfect. Yeah. Got 12. Now, if I divide this up by 12, that means that each one of these right here is this is a circle. So each one of these is gonna be 30 degrees of space, 30 degrees. And when we take that 30 degrees, all right, and we multiply 12 spaces of 30 degrees each, what do we get? We get 360 degrees. So this is a 360 degrees. And then within this, we have different constellations. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 constellations. Hey, what are you doing with that paper and that thing? Don't do that. So you have all these different constellations. You got 12 of them. So the seasons are happening within these constellations. Everything is happening here. All right. You got the earth is in here. You got the moon is in here. The sun is in here. All the different type of planets are inside there. Everything's happening inside of here. But because wisdom has not shown people these things, they look at time and can't understand time properly because they're not looking at the clock. That's like me trying to describe to you what time I want you to be somewhere, and it's dark outside, but I can't. What am I going to use to describe it? I'm just talking. I think I'm giving you a detailed explanation, but I'm really making it more what? More complicated. But if I say, look, I need you to meet me here at 10:05. If you got the clock, you're going to go, oh, it's 10:05, man. It's time for me to go meet Powers out, man. But if you don't understand the clock, if I say, yeah, I want you to meet me about so-and-so, so-and-so after the sun goes down, you're not going to understand that. And that's how it is with these constellations. You can't understand the days, the weeks, the months, the year outside the backdrop of this constellation, these constellations. Change of seasons. All right, go ahead. Wisdom of Solomon 7 and 19. Read that.
The circuits of years.
The what?
The circuits of years.
Now I'm going to ask anybody, what does the circuits of years mean? Wisdom revealed this by observation, to me and my wife. All right? And I noticed it with myself too. This is what happens. All right? Let's say I have a son. On a Gentile calendar, that son was born April 6th, right? April 6th. Well, you know what? Let's just do this because we got people from other countries watching. Let's just do 6 April 1996. Bam. Now, when he was born, 6 April 1996, this particular year when he was born was the fifth day, right? The 5th day of Passover. All right, which means what? Which means it's the 19th, right? The 19th of Abib, right? Which means he was born on the 19th of Abib. Now, you see how that works out? Now, I'm going to use myself as an example. So we got verse 19, and then he was born on the 19th of Abib, because Passover, the first day starts the 15th. That's the first day of Passover. Well, evening of the 14th, and then going into the 15th, the first day of Feast of Unleavened Bread. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. All right, the 5th day. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 2021 is the 7th day. All right, unplug that for me. All right, so 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. All right, so that's 7 days. Now, he was born on this day. Now, this is my own observation. So he was born on this particular day. On the Gentile calendar, it said April 6th. 1996. All right, but guess what happened? All right, when we came back around to in the year 2015, how many years is it from 1996 to 2015? How many years is that? That's 19 years. So 19 years later, Well, my little baby that was born on April 6, 1996, 19 years later, when he was 19 years old, guess what it was? It was the 5th day of Passover, the 19th of Abib, and it was April 6th. It was April 6th, 2015. You know what that means? That means that the circuit, right? That means that the circuit of years, there's approximately a 19-year cycle when the 366 days and the Hebrew lunar calendar, according to the constellations, when they all synchronize again every 19 years. Every 19 years they synchronize, and then the sun, goes off, and then the moon is moving faster. The sun is moving at a certain pace. So when the Most High talks about the circuits of years, that wisdom showed him this. The Most High showed me that same thing through the grace and the mercy of Yahweh Bashem, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. Showed me what? That every 19 years, once again, my son, Kahan Shamaria Bashan, he was born on the 6th of April, 1996. When he was born, it was the 5th day of Passover, which was the 19th of Abib. 19th of Abib. In that year, I believe we had the Passover at I think St. Mark's Ballroom. I believe it was St. Mark's Ballroom. So now, 19 years later, what the Most High said? The Most High said the circuits of years. Circuits means something goes around and comes back through something again. Circuit don't mean something just goes on like this forever. That ain't a circuit. Circuit is when it comes back around and does it again, right? That's the circuit. What's the root word of circuit? Circle. Circle, meaning, these points always begin and end at the same place. That's what the circuit is. So the Most High showed me that circuit of years based on my own son. And you can do the same experiment yourself if you have the proper ephemeris or the proper apps. You can see, okay, when I was born. Now you can go count 19 years into the future, and you'll see that this date and the Hebrew date are going to synchronize. So this is all from the Most High, man. This is all from the Most High. And then there's a cycle also between how many months we're going to have in each constellation, depending on if the month begins in the middle of the constellation or at the end of the constellation, and how many passes the moon is going to make. And that's another thing about the circuits of years that I want to explain real quick. Let me erase this. I want to explain the circuits of years once again. All right. And I'm going to do it linearly as opposed to in a circle, as opposed to in a circuit. So you can, let's say you got well, you know what? I guess maybe what you think we should do in a circle, or you think we should do it in a circle or a square or something. We'll try a circle, okay? Okay, here are the constellations, okay? Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Let's say these are the 12 constellations. Let's move 1 over just a little bit. That's 1. Maybe we can move 12 over a little bit too. We probably do dots between them so we can make the distinction. All right, those don't need dots right here. Okay, so now these are the cierra esa puerta por favor cuando entra. Okay, so this is, now he talked about the circuits of the years. Now, first of all, let's look at this word year. This is the word year in Hebrew. All right. The word year in Hebrew is this. Shana or Shana. Now, the root word of year is the same as the Hebrew word for the letter 2. Because year itself automatically has built into it that it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. So the year always happens again. All right? It's a cycle. It has to keep happening. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a year. It'd just be linear time going through different constellations and different groupings with no cyclical pattern about it. So this is a year, Shana. All right? That's where they get the word Rosh Hashanah from. Shana means year. All right? And I'm out here doing this for you and helping you get this information, man, because I love you. I got a lot of other things I could be, but I love the Most High and I love you. I know the Most High wants us to share our information and knowledge with people. He didn't just give it to us to keep to ourselves. So let's go right here. So let's say that, okay, here's the sun, and let's say there's the moon. There's the sun and the moon. They line up. So now we in month number 6, okay? In month number 6. So what happens is this. The moon travels around. The moon keeps traveling through the other constellations. All right? The moon travels around. And as the moon is traveling around, the sun is moving again. And the sun moves again. Now the moon comes in front of the sun. And now let's say we're at the 7th month. We're at the 7th month now, all right? So that's 7. So now this is what happens. Let's just give an example. I'm gonna just jump all the way up to the 12th month, because that's the point where I can make the point at the best. Let's say that, remember, how many degrees do we have? We got 30 degrees between each constellation, all right? So let's say that when we get right here, the sun and the moon line up at the beginning of the 12th constellation, right at the end of the 11th, beginning of the 12th. And just like it's supposed to, the moon goes around again, makes her circle around the constellations, through the constellations. The moon travels in a circle. The sun travels in a circle around the constellations. All right, so now when it gets back to number 12, guess what? It was at the beginning. So now when we catch it, let's say it's going to be toward the end of the constellation, of the 12th constellation, which is the constellation that they call the fishes. Like Yahushua said, I will make you fishers of men. That's his last commission he gave out to the disciples. Go you therefore and teach all nations, right? Then he said, wait for me at Jerusalem. Wait at Jerusalem, then you're going to be given power from on high when you read in the book of Acts chapter 1. So now, this one right here, we've already had 12 new moons. So now the moon and the sun, they lined up again. Not in the first constellation of the 12, but again in the 12th constellation. So what's going to happen if it's went around 12 times, and then instead of them going into the first constellation, they're still in the 12th constellation. Well, guess what? Instead of having 12 moons, which is moon, month means this, moon. 12 cycles of the moon. Instead of having 12 months or 12 months, guess what you're going to have? You're going to have 13 moons. Which now they don't say month, but they just take out the O and they say what? They say month. But the word month comes from the word moon. Mun. That's why they say the day of the moon. Monday means day of the moon. So now you're going to have 12, you're going to have 13 moons. And guess what? When you do have 13 moons, you're going to have a longer winter, longer cold periods. You're not going to be, it's not going to be, when March comes around, it's still going to be cool outside. You see? Now, this is exactly what happened in the time that I was born. All right, in 1973. In New York City, March 25th was cold outside. Wasn't no Passover going on. I was born in the 12th constellation on the 21st day of that cycle. All right, what they call March 25th. So now around the late middle of April, so-called April, is when you had the Passover that year. Because remember, I was born on the 21st day of the 13th month, but in the 12th constellation. Because somewhere along these 12 constellations, the sun and the moon stayed in one constellation 2 times. So if you got 12 constellations and the moon and the sun go through all 12 constellations 1 time, guess what? You're going to have 12 months, 12 moons. But if it goes through 12 constellations and it goes through one of those constellations an extra time, you're going to have 12 lunar cycles plus another lunar cycle, which is going to give you 13 months. But if you're not watching the constellations, if you're not watching where they are within these constellations, you're going to try to jump to the first month now. You're going to try to jump to not even the first month, but you're going to try to say, oh, we're in the new year now, but you're not. That's why the Most High told you that it's the constellations that regulate the year. Let's go on Genesis real quick. Give me a Genesis 1:14. Genesis 1:14. Now, I hope you understand this. I'm going to erase it now. I'm going to erase some of it. I can leave it like it is. Well, I can't see it. Read.
And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament.
The lights in the firmament is talking about the 12 constellations. Not the other stars, not the moon, and not the sun. Read.
Of the heaven to divide the day from the night.
To divide the day from the night. Now remember, this is before he made the other stars and before he made the moon and the sun. So these constellations are like a buffer zone. All right, all these 12 constellations, all right, they're like a buffer zone to us between the what?
The day from the night.
Between the day and the night. Because now when we can see them, it's nighttime. When we don't see them, it's because the sun is out and we don't see them. That lets us know, okay, we're in the daytime now. And then the other one, we're in the nighttime now. So these constellations show us that we're in the day. I'm sorry, show us that we're in the night. All right, and this one shows us that we're in, when the sun is out, we're in the day. All right, go ahead.
And let them be for signs.
Let them be for signs, which is going to be a thought. All right, so they're marking things that need to take place that we need to pay attention to, powerful things. That's ox, and then a mark and a mark. All right, let them be for signs. Now these things are fixed. See, that's an X marks the spot. These things are double fixed. And what did we just review? You see that how the Most High is? What powerful thing did we just review in the scripture? all right, that's marked. We talked about what? The years, which is Shana. Hashanah. And Shana literally means this right here. What is this? This right here is 2 X's. So Shana literally means 2. So the constellations are up there for a sign for us to mark. Okay? So look at this. That's 2. All right. So all right, go ahead.
And let them be for signs
And
for seasons.
And for seasons, for the seasons, it's for seasons is Mawa'idya. This deals with certain time periods that happen on a regular cycle. Okay, Passover. All right, like the Feast of Unleavened Bread, like the Feast of Weeks, Shabbat, like the Feast of Tabernacles. So all these things are regulated according to the constellations. But nobody's hardly looking at the constellations for these things. They just getting into, oh, we seen the moon in Jerusalem, we're in the new year or a new month. Oh, my app says that the new moon is going to be on such and such a day. Well, when do you begin your year? How do you know you're in the correct month? It's more than just when a new moon comes in. What constellation is that new moon in? And this is when you go into Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13, verse 2. Solomon calls this the circle of stars. I read. So Mawa'idya. These are the feasts that we read about in Genesis, in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 1 and 2. When he says these are the feasts of the Most High, it don't say feast in the Hebrew. It says this word, Moedim, or Mawa'idya. It says Mawa'idya, the feast, the celebrations, those things that happen in a cycle that we're supposed to observe according to the constellations. Not the sun and not the moon. All right, not the sun and the moon, but the sun and the moon as it relates to, when you do that, you make it a shadow. All right. When you look at it, all right, the sun and the moon are in the front, but the backdrop is what? The constellations, the lights in the firmament. Okay, read. So that's seasons. Mawa'idya. Go ahead.
And for days.
And for what?
And for days.
And for days. What's it saying in Hebrew? This is say Athath, Mawa'idya, it says Yamaya, like this. Yamayam, yum. So this is how you say Yamayam, which the root of that we know is Yawam. The root of that is Yawam. But this shows a cycle, power, hand, movement. All right, power, hand, control, movement. Power, hand, control, movement. Day in and day out. See that? Cycle. Yum. Also, this goes into a word that means waters, because this is us as we move in through the waters also. All right. My yum is how you say water, right? So this is us as we move in through the waters also, day in, day out, as the world turns, right? As the world turns. So this deals with the cycles of light and darkness. Light, darkness, regulated by the constellations, because when they come out, you know what? We know when a new day now. Ain't no doubt about it, right? When we see them constellations, we know when a new day. We know a new day has started once we see them. Ain't no doubt about it. All right, go ahead. What's the next word?
Washanayam.
Why what?
Why?
Shah. Am I spelling right? Shana. Yum, like that? Or is there a ha in it?
It's Shanayam.
What is it?
It's Washanayam.
Like this? All right. Shanayam, like that. Why just means what? This means and. So Shanayim tells us what? This is the word for years. So the way we're supposed to be regulating our years is with the constellations. Everything is happening in those constellations. It ain't talking about the sun or the moon or the other stars, all right? Everything is happening in relationship to these. So when we talk about when we go into okay, let's go into we're going to Job chapter 38, and we read verse 31. It talks about the Pleiades, which is Pleiades. Okay. Then we have Orion. Okay. Then we have Mazzaroth, which has two Z's, not two R's. Okay. And then we have what after that? We have Arcturus. I like Arcturus. That's dealing with the Bear constellation. Arcturus. Now this is just what we're going to go into right here. But all of these come into play. This right here is Genesis 1:14. These over here are Genesis 1:16. We have two different sets of lights that the Most High created, and He separated them. All right. Let's. So this is the firmaments of the sky, of the heavens, right? Firmaments of the heavens from Genesis 1:14. Firmaments of the heaven, and these are the stars. These are the stars. Now the stars and the sun and the moon are all happening within this circle of stars right here from Genesis 1:14. Continue reading.
Genesis chapter 1, verse 15.
Uh-huh.
And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so.
So those are lights in the sky that give light, to give understanding of the times, understanding of the year, understanding of the day, understanding of the season, and understanding of the signs upon the earth. That's their job. That's their primary job, to give light and for signs, seasons, days, and years. And that's how you got to use them. But all revolving around measuring time on earth. Read.
And Elohim made the two great lights.
Now, Elohim made two big lights after that. Other ones were small. Now he made two great lights. Read.
The greater light to rule the day,
which is the sun. Go ahead.
And the lesser light to rule the night,
which is the moon. But notice he don't even mention them by names right here. They don't even got a name. They don't even have a name. So they weren't even relevant. And I remind you, we've been having day and night. We had like 3 days and nights already. Now right here, we in the fourth day. We're in the fourth day at this creation, which shows you what? That day and night exist outside of the sun and the moon and the stars. Ain't that beautiful? Ain't that powerful of the Most High? How the Most High made the day exist before He even made the sun and the stars or the moon. We have days, evening and morning, before He even made these other things. Because these regulate the day and the morning. This rules the day. This rules the night. And this puts a buffer between the day and the night. All right? But the Most High already made the day and the night before He made the constellations, the sun, or the moon. Keep reading.
And stars.
Read that part again from the lesser light, greater and lesser light.
And and the lesser light, and Elohim made the two great lights.
Uh-huh.
The greater lights rule the day,
Uh-huh.
and the lesser lights rule the night,
Uh-huh.
and the stars.
Okay, so now the greater light and the lesser light, we also see that he made the stars. So you got 1, 2, 3. All right, and then you have over here 1. 2 different things happening. One is the constellation, which people call the zodiac or astrology signs, but the nations and the ancient, they took the science of time in the sky and they used it for evil, to try to prognosticate and to forecast and to tell the future, but that's evil. We're not supposed to use these things for that. We're not supposed to go into them sciences. That's what the Most High said in Jeremiah chapter 10. Be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. All right, so this is just dealing with time, brothers and sisters. So when you hear us talking about Gemini and Aries and Cancer, and you're just talking about Sagittarius, we using these things because those are the names that people know these constellations by. We're not using them for no horoscope. We're not using them for astrology. We're using them for astronomy, which is the observation of the constellations, the moon, the stars, and the sun. All right, for the purpose of for keeping track of time. That is it. That's it. Now I want to say that emphatically. So when I say Aries, I mean the first constellation that shows us the new year. I don't mean the sign that you're born under and you got these different sets of characteristics that you got to look into the newspaper or go on the website to see what you can or shouldn't do today. I ain't talking about that. So get that out of your brain, please, if it's there. All right, go ahead.
And Elohim set them in the firmament of the heaven.
So hold up. So he made them and then set them in the firmament. Is that what happened? So he made these things and then he set them in the firmament. Go ahead.
To give light upon the earth.
So give us light on the earth. Go ahead.
And to rule over the day and over the night.
Rule over the day and rule over the night. These two rule over the night. See, this puts the difference between the day and the night. This one rules the day, this one rules the night, and this one helps rule the night too. Read.
And to divide the light from the darkness.
To divide the light from the darkness. So when the sun starts to come out, we see that the light is getting broken off from the day. From the night. When we see the moon coming out, we see that the night is getting broken off, coming off of the daylight. When we see the stars, we see that the light is getting broken off, or the darkness is getting broken off, coming forth from the light. Right? The darkness, the light is getting broken off, and then the darkness is starting again. All right. Let's put all these little papers and stuff away. All right. So we said this is what's going on. Now, read that word again. The last section of that verse. Let's straighten them things up in there too. Let's put them neatly in the pockets and stuff. Let's not just throw them away. Go ahead.
And to divide the light.
To what?
To divide.
Now, give me that in the Hebrew if you can find it over there. Is that the last phrase in the verse?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, go. You should be able to find that thing. While y'all, it's just say why Yah with Alahayim, Kayatoam, something like that. But before that, he divided. I want to tell you what that says. That's darkness. It should say like Yabadal or Badal. The Badal is going to be the root word that you see. What did it say?
Wallaha. Dayal.
Well, so let me see it.
Wallah. Habadiyal. Wallaha.
Badial. Jalaham Badial. Okay. This is voila, right? Badial, right? So once again, you have Badal. Badal means when two things are separated. So here we go again. How we see the Most High keep putting this separation between the light things and the dark things, and you want to try to say that the new year or the new month starts with light and dark mixing together. A little bit of light on the moon and a lot of darkness is how you begin the new month. You can't say that because every single time we see the Most High talking about light and darkness, bro, like he always talk about he divided the light and the dark. So how are we going to now say, well, he's mixing them together to begin a whole new phase of counting? That's like saying that the dusk begins the new day, or that the dawn begins the new day, or that the week starts in the afternoon. No, it all starts according to darkness. So the same thing with the moon. The moon cycle starts with darkness because he divided the darkness from the light, and he began to count at the dark phase. Go ahead.
And Al-Haim saw that it was good.
Al-Haim saw that it was good. That's the last on that, right? All right, so Al-Haim saw all these things that it was good. All right, he saw all these things that it was good. Now let's see what questions or concerns we have from the people, and we can address some of these issues. So all we doing now is showing you what Solomon did. Wait. Actually, go back to Solomon. We got to finish the king's words. Read verse 19 again.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 19. The circuits of years.
We talked about that. How with the constellations, the years, certain things happen in a pattern. Certain things happen in a pattern. So we got to know and see these patterns. And I've known through the spirit of Yahweh and the spirit of wisdom helping me and giving me the grace and the mercy to share, just share this thing. I'm eternally grateful to the Most High for giving me certain understanding of the scriptures through wisdom that deals with time. I really give him all praise, honor, and glory in the name of Yahweh Bashem HaMashiach Yahushua. So he says the circuits of years, so certain things happen in a cycle when it comes to the years, not the circuit of the year. See that? Not the circuit of the year, but circuit of years. What's the difference between this year and the second year, the third year, and the fourth year? What's the difference between the first year? All right. Now listen how the Most High said that. Now, when you got this circuit of years, right? You're gonna erase all of this. Now I hope y'all got it. Let's go back to that 19 year. All right. So wisdom just kind of dropped another thought in my brain real quick. All right. When we're dealing with the word for year, what does that word for year mean? What's the root word for year? What's the root word for year? It's 2, right? So we have this pattern happening within the months, within the years, from year number 1 all the way to year number what? Year number 19. Year number 1 to year number 19. And when does that circuit start over again? Year number what? Year number 20. So you see that? See how the Most I got everything set up still. With this 2, we got the same pattern happening within 2 itself. Not the first 2, but the second, because the first 2 or the first stage would be 1 through 10. But then the Most I say, nah, I want you to go 11 through 19. And then from 20, I want you to start again. You go 20 to 30. And you go 31 to what? 30, 39. All right. And then 39 is going to be that cycle again, too. Right? Not 30, 38. Well, let me not get ahead of myself. Let me just share what she showed me. Okay. So once again, we come to what? We come to 20. You see, we come to 20. We got 1 and 19, and we got that. So 1 and 19. Then from 19, we're gonna start the thing all over again. From 20 begins it again, and then we go into 19 over 20. When we get to 39, we're gonna see it again, and then from 40, we're gonna start all over again, and then from 40 to 59. Okay, we're gonna see it end, and then from 60, we're gonna start all over again. So this is something that just keeps on happening. All right, so every 20 years begins a new cycle, and that's why the word Shana itself means two. Now, let me ask you something. Humbly. You gotta ask yourself honestly and sincerely, have wisdom really revealed to a lot of these brothers that's arguing and teaching about time and arguing about the month and the days and the years? Does their speech have wisdom in it? Are they using wisdom to show the understanding of what they're talking about? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. But if wisdom is the beginning of all things, if wisdom was held by the Most High at the beginning, then we should be seeking to get this understanding with wisdom. Okay? Yeah, it's still going because the music will be playing. Okay. All right, so let's finish with Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, and let's read verse 19 again.
The circuits of years.
The circles of years.
And the positions of stars.
Once again, where are these stars located? And how do they have anything to do with the year? What do they have to do with the months? What do they have to do with the weeks and the days? Okay. Go ahead.
The natures of living creatures and the furies of wild beasts.
The nature of living creatures and the fury of wild beasts. The nature of living creature, meaning Solomon was like an animal psychologist, animal psychiatrist, animal behavioral specialist. He knew about the animals and he knew about what they could and couldn't do and how to make them or let them or and induce them into a calm state, how to rile them up. Read.
The violence of winds.
He knew about all types of things that affect the wind: hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis. All right, anything affecting the wind, flight. All right, the violence of winds. Read.
And the reasonings of men.
Psychiatry, psychology. All right, fixations, addictions, critical thinking, rational thinking. He knew about all these different things. All right, dealing with men, and wisdom shows you these things also. Read.
The diversities of plants.
The diversities of plants. He was a botany expert. He could show you all the different plants and the genuses of the plants and the subgenuses of the plants and the families of the plants and what the plants were good for, where they could grow, where they could not grow. Okay, go ahead.
And the virtues of roots.
Sarsaparilla, what is it good for? And what is sarsaparilla good for? All right, ginger root, what is it good for? Mandrake, what is mandrake good for? Ginseng, what is ginseng? What is that good for? So all these roots that grow underneath the ground, Solomon can say, this is what we need to do with this herb, with this root, to deal with this condition or to make this thing happen. Now, Solomon also went into the left-hand side of that too. And Solomon dealt with witchcraft and spells That's why we have Solomon following after all these different gods and goddesses. When you go into 1 Kings chapter 8, Solomon went off, but he repented and got back right with the Most High. But he knew all these knowledges. And when you take this knowledge that the Most High gave us, you can use that same knowledge. You can use that same knowledge for evil. Any knowledge we read in this Bible, you can use it for evil. And that is what I see when you look at this, book of Enoch. Because it takes the good things of the Most High, and it uses those things for evil purposes that contradict the Bible. Go into Ecclesiastes chapter 39 real quick. Ecclesiastes 39 and 27. We're going to go back to Wisdom of Solomon. All right, read.
All these
All your scripture.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 39, verse 27.
Read.
All these things are for good to be to
Read.
the God.
Start over.
All these things are for good to the God.
What happens is that you read, man, you rushing through it. If you read slow, people can still understand you. You read fast, they can understand you. If you say all these things are for good to the godly, people understand you. Or if you say all these things are for good to the godly. So all the things the Most High created are for the good unto the godly people. So the constellations, the stars, the positions of the stars, the winds, the reasonings of men, the virtues of roots, the knowledge of plants, those things are good unto the people that's trying to follow the Most High. Read.
To the sinners.
So to the people that are wicked, that are sinners, that are against the Most High, whose spirit are not keeping the commandment, whose spirits rather are not obeying the commandments. Read.
They are turned into evil.
They are turned into what?
Evil.
They are turned into evil. So the Most High said, woe to them that call good evil and evil good. They've taken the good things of the Most High and they changed them things into evil. And that's exactly what people did. And let's go back to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 8, chapter 7. That's exactly what people did on Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7. All right, now let's read verse 21.
And all such things as are either secret or manifest.
See that? Solomon said the things that are unknown to people, and the things that are known to people, but maybe different parts of the earth, they got different pieces of knowledge. But Solomon says all of these things that are hidden and that are obvious, that are secret, and that are manifest. What did he say?
Them I know.
He said he knew all these things. You see? So what Solomon said, he knew all these things. And this is just an example about that 1920 pattern that we see with the time. Right, go ahead.
For wisdom, which is the worker of all things.
For wisdom, which is the worker of all things. Meaning wisdom is working the stars. Wisdom is working the moon. Wisdom is working the constellation and the sun. Wisdom is the worker of all things. She works all things out. She brings all things together. She assembles everything. Wisdom does. Read.
Taught me.
Wisdom what?
Taught me.
Wisdom is what taught Solomon. Wisdom is what can teach you about time. And wisdom taught me about time also. And that's why this conference that we're doing, which seems more like a lesson now, a lecture now, is called It's About Time. So I wanted brothers to call in and to talk, and to participate in the different things we're talking about. All right. So now what we can do, the people that's on the line, we can go ahead and let them chime in. And then what we do after that is we'll bring in some of the comments. Is there anybody on the call that has anything to say? Okay, so let's go into the comments that we have on the board right here. I need a new Hebrew name. Okay, yeah, maybe. All right. Foot, kind, that's the opposite of head. Ra'ash, we said that at the beginning. All right, go ahead. All right, shalom, everybody that tuned in. All right, shalom, Hezekiah. All praise to Yahweh. Shalom, Ibri. Arabic, you say Arabic, huh? Money. I missed that part. Sorry, Hezekiah. I missed what you said about the Arabic and what you said about the dollar signs. Go ahead. Solomon asked for wisdom, Khan. So Solomon said, "Yeah, give me understanding. All right, give me understanding so that I can rule over your people." So the purpose of Solomon asking for wisdom was to make him a better servant to Israel. A lot of brothers actually are using wisdom as a tool to try to build up their own organizations, man. But you can't use wisdom like that, man. Wisdom is for you to help the people, man. The whole nation, not for you to just say, yeah, I got these, 500 men up under me now. So now, I got wisdom. No, that ain't what it's for, man. Wisdom is to help and serve the people, man. All right, let's see what else. Book of Sirach 1 speaks of wisdom coming from the Most High. Khan. Sure does. All right. Shalom, Trayvon. I don't know if you're still there. Okay. Ronnie. What's going on, Uncle Ronnie? Hallelujah. All right. Martrina, what's going on, cousin? All right, Trayvon. Yeah, 19-year cycle, man. Ikaran, shalom, hallelujah. Icon, Trayvon, that 19 months is needed to put the feast days back in the balance of with what's going on with the sun. So the sun and the moon, they traveling at different speeds. The moon is traveling faster. The sun is traveling mad slow. You get something on accident or something? All right, y'all. All right, so we lost some contact going on Facebook some kind of way. I had to end it, I guess. You must have hit ending on accident or something. I'll go ahead and so yeah, at least we can end this one formally. All right, so the next new moon is going to be on February 3rd, which is tonight. So the next new moon after tonight is going to be on the next new moon after tonight is going to be let's see the next new moon after tonight is going to be March 5th. So March 5th is the next new moon. March 5th is the next new moon. And past the next new moon after March 5th is the next new moon. And the next new moon after that is going to be April 4th. And the first book of Passover, the first day of Passover is going to be April 18th to April 19th. Sunset to sunset. And the last day of Passover is going to be April 24th to April 25th, sunset to sunset. So that's about all. That's about all from the clock on the wall. All right, so that's about it. Yahweh be with you. Shema Yasha Allah, Yahweh Allahayna wa Yahweh Kad, wa Hafta at Yahweh Allahayaka, wa Kal Nababka, wa Bakal Napaska, wa Bakal Ma'adka. Ya Baraka Kam Yahweh Bashem Hamashiach Yahushua, Shalom Lekam.